Two more Missouri basketball players are heading out of town and into the transfer portal. Plus, Dennis Gates has finalized his assistant coaching staff. And could Sam Horn, the prize quarterback from Georgia, could he be playing minor league baseball instead of suiting up for the Tigers this fall? Well, let's talk about this and more coming up right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. Thanks for making this show your first listen as per usual. And boy, does Dennis Gates, the new Missouri Tiger coach, does he ever sleep? My goodness, he's been on the job for about 35, 36 days or so. And already 75% of the roster has been turned over with Boogie, Coleman, and Amari Davis now officially entering the transfer portal. Well, all you've got left at this point is Kobe Brown, Caleb Brown, and Ronnie DeGray III. And quite frankly, even at this point, I'm not even sure if DeGray is going to be around. I kind of hope he is because I like Ronnie DeGray's game. But at the same time, I will trust Dennis Gates and his judgment at this point in time. And also, not only a couple guys on the way out, well, there's plenty of players who are rumored to be on the way in. By the way, one we can scratch off the list, actually. Gabe DeArmond was writing on his message board yesterday over at Power Mizzou that Adam Miller, formerly of the Illinois Fighting Illini and the LSU Tigers, a former top 50 guy out of high school. Well, at first, Gabe, his sources were telling him, hey, Miller's going to be a Tiger. Now, Gabe recanting that, saying, ooh, that information not looking so good now. In fact, it doesn't look like Miller even has the Tigers in his top 20. It doesn't look like there was any recruiting happening there whatsoever. But some other information, some other rumors that seem to have some teeth, even though nothing's official yet. Well, first of all, you've got the finalization of the Missouri assistant head coaching staff. I mentioned last week, Dickie Nutt. Well, we've also got Kyle Smithpeters, who was formerly of John A. Logan College. And, well, this is a good transition here because this will bring us into the other very heavily rumored possible new Tiger, and that's a former guy who played 2 years for Kyle Smithpeters at John A. Logan College, and that's Jamarion Sharp. Now, here's the thing about, or Jamarion, possibly. Jamarion. I'll go with Jamarion for now. But Mr. Sharp was the leading shot blocker in college basketball last season. He has not officially entered the transfer portal. So this could all be, again, just pure speculation that ends up going poof. But at the same time, hiring Kyle Smithpeters, his former coach, obviously they spent 2 years together. Sharp spent this past season at Western Kentucky. Again, biggest shot blocker in the country, literally in terms of size and in the stat book as well. By the way, 7 shot blocks against the Kentucky Wildcats too. So in case you're wondering, maybe the competition wasn't up to snuff, the guy can certainly score around the basket. He shot 73% from the field last year, also about 38% from the free throw line, which frankly, I've never seen a spread that big in my entire life between somebody's free throw and field goal percentage in that inverse of a way. If you can come up with one bigger than that, I'd love to hear it. But regardless, I think it's pretty clear that Jamarion Sharp would be a literally and figuratively huge get for Dennis Gates in Missouri because, well, if you can get that kind of shot blocking on the back end of the defense, that kind of rim protection, well, guess what happens? It makes your perimeter guys' job so much easier and allows them to deny the passing lanes and pressure up on those guards in a way that Dennis Gates clearly likes, in my opinion, from his time at Florida State. The kind of defense that he likes to play is an aggressive style that's in your face, that's getting hands on lots of balls. And if you're going to be that kind of aggressive, if you're going to have that type of aggression, I should say, on the perimeter defensively, every once in a while you're going to have to clean some stuff up on the back end. And it's hard to imagine there'd be somebody better in college basketball that Missouri could get its hands on than Jamarion Sharp. So I had previously said about a month ago that Blair Oaks player Luke Northweather, in fact, the Missouri High School Player of the Year, I just didn't think he was a take for Dennis Gates and Missouri at the time. But you know what? 30 days ago, considering all that's happened in college basketball in general, but especially at Missouri, feels like a lifetime ago at this point. And my assumption with Luke Northweather, the 6'9" young man who, in my opinion, a really excellent shooter for his size, good ball handler, good feel for the game. I just kind of felt like his athleticism, maybe not yet at SEC level. But you know what? Starting to change my mind a little bit, and certainly Missouri's starting to change its mind a little bit, at least in this point in this point in the process, because the word on the street is that Luke Northweather going to be taking a visit to Missouri, perhaps even today. And he did pick up an offer from Porter Moser and Oklahoma. So, hey, there's a high major school that, again, late in the recruiting process here, thinks, hey, this guy's probably worth a take. And I think, again, as you get deeper into the process, that's why I wanted to emphasize that I said at this time for Dennis Gates in Missouri, I don't think he's a take, because I think you've got to shoot a little bit higher for a guy that at the time, again, had no high major offers. Again, pretty deep into the recruiting process for a kid who is a senior in high school. So, but now, suddenly, if you're Missouri, you're going, okay, we've added a lot during this transfer process, but guess what we could still use? More shooting. And guess what just about every team in the country could use at this point? Well, more shooting, especially shooting with size. So, especially if you're not going to count on Luke Northweather next season to be a huge contributor, well, now suddenly I'm starting to realize, oh, wait, this actually does make a lot of sense if you're Dennis Gates in Missouri. Put the guy in a real strength and conditioning program, a high major, big time SEC level strength and conditioning program, especially get that lateral quickness going a little bit. That would be my biggest concern, is who does he guard at that level? That's my biggest concern, because offensively, I think he'll play just fine. Again, a guy at that size with a good feel for the game who can shoot it, I'm not too worried about him on that end of the court. But hey, give him a year to develop a little bit, learn a thing or two, and especially develop that body a little bit, start eating better. You know, hey, he's a high school kid. I'm assuming he's not exactly eating, lean protein and salads every single day. Whatever Missouri's going to put him on, I'm sure it'll be an improvement. No doubt about that. So anyway, I think Luke Northweather at this point of the process starting to look a lot more interesting if you're a Tiger fan. And coming up, MLB.com just released a list of its top prospects for the upcoming 2022 Major League Draft, and Sam Horn's inclusion has some Tiger fans pretty nervous. I want to talk about how founded that nervous energy really is, but first I want to tell you about AG1, a product from Athletic Greens. And AG1 is a product I use literally every day because, quite honestly, I was interested in improving my gut health, my energy, optimizing my immune system, all that good stuff. Basically just living my best life, as the great Oprah Winfrey loves to say. Well, here's the thing. I've been taking it for a while now, and I absolutely notice the difference. So what is this stuff? Well, it's just one scoop of delicious AG1, and in it, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens. All this stuff is going to help you start your day the right way. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, nervous system, immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging. Indeed, all of the things. So you know what? Right now, it's time to reclaim your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/college. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/college to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Thanks for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen every day. Now for a big announcement for the first time ever, Locked On is hosting live coverage of the 2022 NFL Draft from our studios in Dallas with pick-by-pick analysis from our local team experts and draft gurus. Tune in all 3 days as our team guides you through every pick and every trade in real time. It all starts on Thursday at 6 o'clock, available on Locked On NFL, on YouTube, and on the Odyssey app. Well, I think some Missouri fans and perhaps even Eli Drinkwitz himself were secretly a little disappointed when Sam Horn decided to keep playing high school baseball his final semester of high school instead of deciding to join Missouri for spring football practice, perhaps in a push to actually be Missouri's starting quarterback this fall. Now, number one, I can't completely rule out Horn being the starting quarterback this fall. I'd be pretty surprised, and despite his very obvious talent, if that were to happen. But at this point, I guess it's fair to wonder if Sam Horn even makes it to Columbia, I suppose, especially when, as previously teased, well, MLB.com came out with its 2022 prospects list specifically for that 2022 draft. Sam Horn, your Missouri Tiger possible quarterback in the future. By the way, he's going to play baseball for the Tigers as well, coming in at 71st overall. So that would be an early third round, perhaps late second round pick if you include compensatory picks, however that works out. But regardless, the real number to keep in mind here is apparently the 71st overall draft pick last year, just for example, got an $885,000 signing bonus. So that's real money, ladies and gentlemen. That's just shy of $1 million. And to a high school kid, that's going to pop your eyes out a little bit. Now, first of all, this is just, and we don't have nearly as much information about the Major League Draft as we do about the NFL Draft, for instance. You got the Locked On Podcast Network covering the draft, for instance, in heavy detail, including mock drafts and the whole thing. Well, guess what, folks? We don't do that for the Major League Draft. There's a reason. There's just not nearly as much interest in a bunch of high school and college baseball players. That's just the way it goes. So basically what I'm trying to tell you is the idea that he's just going to go 71st, well, that's not going to happen. The odds are he could go higher, quite honestly. He just hit 95 miles an hour for the first time the other day. Possibly he goes higher than 71st. Possible he goes significantly lower than that. But regardless, I think back in the day, before your name, image, and likeness world that we lived in, well, I think an $885,000 bonus would go a long ways. Now, in this day, you have to figure, well, I saw some people online saying, oh, no, he's gone unless we match that bonus. Now, hold on, pump the brakes for a second, because match the bonus? Now, don't get me wrong, if he gets nothing, which, again, that would have been the case, perhaps at least legal money, right? A few years ago, Horn would have gotten nothing in theory for playing college football. So compare that to $885,000. Yeah, that's a big problem. But what if Horn gets, I don't know, $500,000, let's say? Obviously, that's still a lot less than 885, but you got to factor in quality of life. Would you not rather go to college at the University of Missouri for 3 or 4 years than, say, ride around on a bus between minor league baseball cities, because to me, one lifestyle sounds a lot better than the other, especially when I can play college baseball at Missouri too, increase my stock in both sports, have more options. And guess what? In 3 years, I'll be draft eligible in baseball once again, can go back into the draft in that sport, and you'll be eligible possibly for the NFL as well. So to me, if I'm Sam Horn, as tempting as $885,000 must sound to an 18-year-old high school kid in his last semester, hasn't even gone to prom yet, just to give you an idea of how young that young man really is. Well, in this new world, I still think if I were him, I would delay my satisfaction a little bit, take whatever money I'm getting in terms of name, image, and likeness down the road and currently from Missouri, obviously cash in on those opportunities. But to me, keep your options open. He's still developing as an athlete in both of those sports. He's obviously got a tremendous, tremendous arm attached to his body. His talent is undeniable. If you can throw a football like he can throw it, especially on the move, that's a rare ability. It might even be just as rare, if not more rare, to throw the ball 95 miles an hour at his age. So to me, just be patient, develop. And I think in 3 years, he'll find that actually the amount of money he'll be possibly getting, look at the odds, both sports. He can leverage both against themselves, perhaps. He can really, really do well, I think, if he comes to Missouri, proves himself in both sports. I think that's really the way to go. At this moment, I'm not really all that worried about Horn going to the minor leagues. I think he's going to be a college kid. I really do. And once again, Dennis Gates has rounded out his 3-man coaching staff, but just one of those men is on a multi-year contract. Should that be a point of concern? I want to address that coming up, but first, I want to address the best place to bet on the internet. It's BetOnline.net. Without a doubt, your number one source for all your betting needs. You know what? You can find the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball, hockey underway. It's all there for you. Even esports. You want to bet on the Oscars, WrestleMania, politics. I'm telling you, anything you could possibly think of. Maybe you're an international flavor type person. You're into cricket, F1 racing. I don't know what you're into, but here's what I know. You're going to find it at betonline.net. So head to their website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action over at BetOnline, where the game starts. After hiring Kyle Smithpeters, Dennis Gates said of his new assistant coach, he is a great teacher, evaluator, and recruiter. I have had a front row seat for 15 years watching him prepare for this opportunity, but also build John A. Logan College into the power it is today. So one thing I brought up earlier in this program was Jamarion Sharp. Obviously, his relationship as a former player of Kyle Smithpeters. But here's one thing I should emphasize. This doesn't appear at all to be a Conzo Martin, Michael Porter Sr. situation where quite clearly and quite frankly, Porter was hired to secure the services of his son, Michael Porter Jr. We can all see that. Wasn't much of a relationship, apparently, between Conzo Martin and Michael Porter before that hire. But on the other hand, Kyle Smithpeters and Dennis Gates have obviously known each other for 15 some odd years there, according to Coach Gates. So I find that bit to be encouraging. Now, if you're a Missouri fan, you're digging deeply into this whole assistant coach's salary pool, you'll find that, well, total, they'll be making a little bit more than Sam Horn would make if he were, in theory, the 71st pick of last year's MLB draft. Just over $900,000. Charlton Young making the lion's share there, $600,000 a year on a 3-year contract. And in fact, Kyle Smithpeters and the previously hired Dickie Nutt, both on 1-year contracts. So is that something to worry about? Are these guys going to be transient hires here at Missouri? Well, to the latter, quite possibly. Yeah, who knows how long either one of those guys are going to be here. I think you could say that for just about any non-top assistant in college basketball at this point. And the reality is, I think the one-year contracts sort of reflect that reality quite clearly. I think this is pretty much business as usual. If you look around college basketball, yeah, you'll find Jerome Tang, who recently left Baylor to coach Kansas State. Well, he'd been right at Scott Drew's side for many, many, many years, almost 20 years or so. Well, he was making the lion's share of the money, and basically he was the one guy who was going to hang around. Well, Baylor had lots of turnover among that time, and I think hopefully if you're Dennis Gates in Missouri, you'll keep Charlton Young around until, maybe he gets another shot at a high major job, or I should say his first shot, another shot at a head coaching opportunity. But frankly, Dickie Nutt, Kyle Smithpeters, those other two spots on your assistants ledger, they're going to be a little transitory. It's not going to be that much different than the transfer portal. Look no further than Kim English. He was at Tulsa, then Colorado, then Tennessee. Now he's the head coach of George Mason. That's just kind of how this business goes. So to me, nothing to really be worried about there whatsoever. And once again, thanks for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen. Thanks for telling a friend. We are free and available on all podcasts. Once again, check out Locked On the NFL Draft. Subscribe to their YouTube page so you'll get their live coverage on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, every second of the draft. We've got you covered here on Locked On, wherever you get your podcasts. Again, that's Locked On NFL Draft. So until next time, I'm John Miller, and this has been Locked on Mizzou.